Hey you guys, it's Slash Passion here to do the 200 battery pack review of the Spektrum DX2s sport radio system. Get some background information out of the way. This is a telemetry enabled sport radio. It's a computer radio. It has 5 model memory. It has exponential, steering dual rate, travel adjustments, digital trims, steering rate, pretty much all the stuff you would expect out of computer radio pretty much. The receiver it comes with is the 2.4 GHz SR3300T telemetry-enabled receiver. It's a pretty good receiver, except for the range. The range is 300 feet, which is, they say it's a football field, but knowing that you don't have that range, it kind of bugged me a little bit. But it may not bug you. It's perfectly fine for any track you're going to be running on. Like I said, it is telemetry enabled, and the radio does come with all the telemetry sensors necessary. They plug in right here. You have your, you're not going to be able to see that because it's so shiny, but you have the lap sensor, the temp sensor, and RPM sensor. I'm sorry, it doesn't come with a lap sensor. You're going to have to buy that separately. Moving on to the radio. Oh, and by the way, this radio, if you buy it new from Spektrum right now, it does come with the long antenna SR3300T, not the terrible short antenna version that they did have previously. Yeah, I think I said the radio costs $100. I might not, but either way, $100 for a telemetry-enabled radio and receiver combo? Kind of unheard of. We'll have to see how that plays out. But yeah, I've obviously run the radio for 200 packs, but let's just go over some more features of the radio, the actual physical ones that you can see and interact with. Yeah, the power button down here. Down below is the battery tray. Now it does take 4 AA batteries, but I did put a Li-Fi battery in here. You can put a 2S Li-Fi battery in here perfectly safely without any extra circuitry work like resistors and voltage limiting and various things like that. You have your timer little button right here. Let's see if you can see that a little bit. You can see the little inscription there, the timer. But that's the timer button, right? It's every single time you pass the finishing line on the track, you can press that button and it'll keep track of the lap times that you've had. Not the most accurate way of measuring time, but if you don't have a lap sensor installed, then it's a good feature. Or if your track doesn't even have lap sensing capabilities. Here you have the kind of trademark Spektrum roller switch, right? With the press in, you have I think that's the engine cutoff switch right here. Not sure how they do that, considering that's a 2-channel radio. Maybe it's for something different. I'm not really sure. I don't use it. Here you have the throttle trim switches. It's digital. And here's the steering trim. That throttle trim switch can be programmed to also do braking percentages as well. You have the steering rate knob right here. There's the antenna, kind of known to break if you drop these radios. And then obviously back here on the screen. I'm not going to go through the menus on this radio because, it's a Spektrum. The menus are very intuitive. They're very well laid out. They're very logical. If you ever used a Spektrum airplane radio or anything like that, I guarantee you'll know how to use this. So yeah, now moving on to the actual feel of the radio. How does it feel in your hand ergonomically? Ergonomically. Yeah, I think that's right. How does it feel? Well, I'd say pretty darn good. I think it's the best feeling surface radio I've ever used. I've held an MT4, I've held a Futaba 4PL, a lot of RTR radios, and this one just feels the best. And the amazing thing is, it's only a $100 radio. And all Spektrums have this across their entire lineup, and it's really, really good. This is pretty much the main reason why I have this radio, believe it or not. It's just this grip and this feel that this radio has. It's this rubber grip right here, and it's so comfortable. It's amazing. The radio doesn't weigh very much. It's really nice. And you have these interchangeable silicone grips, right? You have a small, medium, and large, and the radio comes with the medium installed. And then you have a front grip right here. And your finger kind of rests on this little lip right here, and the radio is really well balanced. You can see I can totally support it from just that little ledge, so it's pretty well balanced. It doesn't really feel like it has any leaning tendencies when you're holding it. So the grip is really comfortable. Throttle trigger, really nice also. It's a soft spring. It's very smooth. It doesn't rub on the side, on the cutout for the trigger, right? It doesn't rub against that plastic up there. Really smooth, really linear feeling. It doesn't have a progressiveness to it like some RTR radios have, right? It feels the same tension throughout the entire range of motion of the trigger. It feels really nice. It does. The steering wheel doesn't have a lot of bounce in it. It's pretty good, definitely better than RTR radios. It has a chrome wheel right here, which you may not like. I personally think it's a pretty good looking radio, even with the chrome wheel. So you can also, if you don't like that wheel, you can interchange it with, not exchange, that's the wrong word, but yeah, interchange it with other wheels that are for sale by Dynamite, which is a Horizon Hobby / Spektrum company. So yeah, on the wheel, it comes on the radio. It has a nice foam grip. It's really grippy foam. It's not the softest, right? So your fingers, you have to press pretty hard into it to get your fingers to imprint. But it is still really grippy, and it's really nice feeling. It also, the wheel feels like the right size to me. It's not too small like a lot of RTR radios seem to be. You know, those small wheels really bug me. I don't like it. So yeah, this wheel does feel really nice in comparison to all those. It is also a dual ball bearing. The wheels do ride on dual ball bearings, so that helps to improve smoothness. So yeah, on the surface of things, this looks like a really good radio. I'm going to tell you, it does have a few issues that I'm going to go over with you in the future parts of this video. How about now? Yeah, we'll go over them now. First thing, Spektrum radios are pretty renowned for their pathetic range, especially considering that, like I said, this guy right here, probably the worst range offering of all the Spektrum receivers. It's, like I said, the SR3300T. This one, it doesn't have the shortest antenna. It actually has a pretty long antenna for 2.4 gigahertz units, and for whatever reason, the range just isn't that good. Really a weird thing. I don't understand it. But yeah, it's not that receiver either. I wasn't really happy with the range on this receiver, so I went out to my local hobby shop, paid $30, and I bought an SR201, and that's installed over here in my hovercraft. Yeah, you can see it there. That has a really short antenna, but the range is, I think, 400 feet. Pretty impressive. I'm sorry, gosh, feigned optimism there. Not very good for a 2.4 gigahertz radio. Really not very good for any radio. Competitors' radios go up to 1,000 feet and beyond that, and these are stuck at 400 feet. Granted, you're never going to use that 1,000 feet or that extra 600 feet, but in the back of your mind, that may bug you. Keep that in mind. It doesn't really bug me too much. The 300 feet bugged me, but the 400 feet, that was perfectly acceptable for me. That's all the way down my street, so I would never need to use any more than that. So yeah, that's kind of a problem. Also, the receiver prices are pretty overpriced for Spektrum units. If you want to buy this brand new from your hobby shop, this receiver, with its 300-foot range, it is $100. And you may say, well, that's because it's a telemetry receiver. Fair enough. Like I said, the SR201, that is only $30, but that's still... I still think $30 is a bit pricey, especially considering how big these cases are. They don't really fit in a lot of the Traxxas waterproof receiver boxes if you have the 1/16 scales. So then Spektrum is going to charge you extra for a smaller receiver, even though this telemetry receiver with all its ports and everything is the exact same size as the SR201. They're pretty beefy receivers. So, still on the issue of receivers, like I said, this radio, these newer ones, Spektrum units, are DSM-2 compatible, so you can buy a DSM-2 receiver, but once again, buying that from your hobby shop, that's insanely expensive. Cheapest DSM-2 receiver I could find was $50, and that's a bit pricey for me. So, what's your option? Well, you have a really good option, and it's going to make this radio worth every $100 that you paid for it. And it is the Hobby King Orange RX receivers. It's the GR300 from Hobby King. and you can pick it up when it's in the USA warehouse for a whopping $10. Yes, $10. That's pretty darn cheap. And is it a crap receiver? No, I bought one. It's actually a great receiver. It's smaller than the Spektrums. It's actually tiny. It will fit in any waterproof receiver box, I'm sure. If you can find a receiver box that it won't fit into, I'd really like to see that. It's a very small receiver. Unfortunately, it's installed in my Slash 4x4, so I can't really get it out easily, especially with all the wires and such. But yeah, it's a very small receiver. It's these really dwarf that receiver. It's much smaller. So that's a really good option. It's $10. It's also running DSM-2 modulation. The range is better. The range is about 500 feet, a little bit more. I haven't actually gotten it to run out of range before. It's just the response time gets really slow at the end of my street. So 500 feet, it's pretty good. It's pretty good range. That's range that I'm perfectly satisfied with that range. It also doesn't have a very long antenna. Really just a great receiver, and it's a 3-channel. So that's your option for receivers for this radio. Also, Spektrum receivers, kind of known for glitching. Is that the receiver's fault? No, not really. I can tell you I had a lot of issues with glitching with this radio when I very first bought it, but that's because the receivers aren't getting enough voltage. Even if your BEC on your ESC is set to 6 volts, your ESC might not have enough output in its BEC to supply these receivers with the voltage they require. Now, Spektrum receivers, they're really sensitive to voltage changes. Other receivers aren't. It's really a weird thing. They get really sensitive, really they don't like lower voltage. If they lose any bit of voltage, then they get unhappy. So what I did to try and remedy that, I bought a power cap. That was a suggested thing on the forums. Power cap, well, it made it a lot better. It did make it a lot better, but it didn't fix it. Now see, I'm running an MMP Max Pro with a Savox servo and a Spektrum receiver. That is the deadly 3. Those are the 3 you don't want to combine if you don't have to. But I did. Savox servo is known for being very high draw, very high amp draw servos. Spektrum receivers, known for being voltage sensitive. MMPs, known for having terrible BECs. They have a 2 amp output. That's pathetic. So even with a power cap running that setup, it still needed more power. That servo needed more power. So it would make the receiver brown out. A lot less, but it still would. So it wasn't the receiver's fault. It was my setup. So I went out, I purchased a Castle BEC for a whopping $25, and problem solved. None of the receivers glitch. They all perform flawlessly. Range isn't really much better, but they still work. So that makes me happy. That solves the range issues. The glitching issues with Spektrum units. There are a lot of myths out there, and I had to dig a lot to find the truth. Now moving into the actual problem with the radio itself. Now this is the only problem I've encountered with this radio. It's the good old spring, right? You see it's working fine right now, but when I had the radio for maybe 2 weeks, not a whole lot of time, I turn the wheel, I hear the spring click. This is completely loose and limp. When that happened, I was at the track. I fixed it myself, and I'm going to make a video separately to show you how to do that. But yeah, the spring broke. Now it's just the end of the spring, right? It's that loop. The machine that makes it bends that one part where the loop connects to the main stretchy portion of the spring. It makes a little white mark, right? A little metal fatigue mark, and that's where the springs break, and it does that on both sides. So what you have to do is open up the radio and bend a new hook in that spring and then just reattach it. Now it's going to happen on both sides, so I'd recommend doing it to both sides when you're in there one time. So that was an issue. If you don't feel comfortable doing that and voiding your 1-year warranty, then you're kind of, I want to say screwed. You're screwed. Because I don't know if Spektrum actually puts better springs in these, or they just replace the stock one. If they replace the stock one, it's going to keep happening, and you have to send your radio away for 2 weeks to Ohio, to Spektrum's repair facility, in order to get that repaired, and that's a pain. No one wants to be down and out of their hobby for 2 weeks. It's not fun. So you can either replace it, send it in Spektrum, have them replace it for free. They will do it for free. I called them when mine happened, and they said they would do it for free. Provided I pay shipping there. A little bit of a jip, but, whatever. But yeah, so they will replace it for free, but I don't know if it's going to keep happening. So I would highly recommend you open up the radio, right? You just get into that assembly, and I'll show you, I'll take a video, I'll do a separate video on that, fixing that spring, and just show you how the radio goes together. It's very simple, it's very easy. If you've done it before, it takes like 5 minutes, it's very quick, and you just bend a new hook in that spring, and I've done that, and I've been running for, like I said, 200 packs, and it's been fine. So, overall, Spektrum DX2s has a little bit of problem with range. Not too bad. If you set it up correctly, it works. Has a spring problem. That's definitely a problem, kind of unacceptable, but the radio's $100. For $100, I'd rather do a little bit of modding and have a great radio in the end, and then rather than spend $300 on a radio that's not going to feel as nice and not have that issue. That's just me, though. If you're not comfortable with that, look elsewhere. If you don't want to deal with that, look elsewhere. If you're not comfortable modding this radio and voiding your warranty, well, yeah, I'd recommend looking elsewhere. But yeah, overall, I'm very happy with the purchase. You know, I did have the issue, but I'm going to fix it. I'm a do-it-yourselfer, so I fixed that issue, and it's all fine now. I fixed the receiver issue. Those receivers are only $10. So really, this is a great radio for the price. I would highly recommend it if, like I said, you're comfortable fixing that spring issue. And yeah, really just overall a good radio if you're willing to do that. So, thanks for watching. I hope you gained some useful information from my time trying to figure out this issue. And please, don't forget to comment, rate, and subscribe.